Well, tomorrow, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel is expected to preview the Defense Department's budget. Hagel insists the military is facing big spending cuts, so it's got to reduce its spending plan by about $40 billion more than planned. The Wall Street Journal reports Hagel will lay out a new plan that cuts personnel costs, limits pay raises, raises fees for health care costs, and cuts housing allowances. The plan will also reportedly freeze pay raises for the highest-ranking members of the military for 1 year. Well, governors from both sides of the aisle will meet with President Obama tomorrow as part of the annual gathering here in Washington. The focus this year, a long list of issues affecting their states and states' rights. Peter Doocy has more on that, plus the plans for tonight. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Shannon. That's right. Later on tonight, the governors who are in D.C. for this conference are going to head over to the White House for a formal dinner with the president. But there is some major disagreement among them about some of the president's top priorities, including the Affordable Care Act. Republican Governor Scott Walker from Wisconsin, for example, does not like it, but Democratic Governor Peter Shumlin from Vermont does.
I don't think the measure of success in government is how many people are dependent in the government. I want people to no longer be dependent because we empower them to get good jobs, family-supporting careers in the private sector, and that's part of our philosophy.
In my state and other states around the country, these Republican governors have, because they don't like the president, because they want to make a political point, are hurting their constituents.
Well, recently the White House has been pressing for a national minimum wage of $10.10, and some of the Democratic governors who are here in Washington right now are behind them.
We know that in our state, almost 60% of people earning a minimum wage are women. Nationally, only 12% of people earning the minimum wage are teenagers. We know that the vast majority of people earning the minimum wage are, in fact, trying to raise a family.
But there are some Republicans who just want to be left alone to decide what is best for their state.
I think the basic message is more freedom and more flexibility, Mr. President, whether it be in the area of health care, whether it be in transportation or in education. I truly believe that the cure for what ails this country will come more from our nation's state capitals than it ever will from our nation's capital.
One thing we are hearing some agreement on, though, between Democrats and Republicans is the need to push back on Defense Department desires to shrink the size of some National Guard forces. Shannon.
Peter, thank you very much. Well, the Republican governors are the ones who seem to be stealing the spotlight this weekend with big names and big personalities. Which of the current GOP governors may make a run for the White House and who would be successful? Fox News digital politics editor Chris Stirewalt joins us now to break it down. Good to see you, Chris.
And you?
All right, so there are a lot of big names out there. Let's start with the one that's gotten the majority of the headlines, Chris Christie.
Oh, sure.
Because either people love him and say he's going to be great, he's going to appeal to independents, he's fantastic, or Bridgegate has done him in.
It's too soon to say. Christie has dealt with the scandal pretty well, pretty effectively so far, but as I like to say, he has put himself in the shark cage of truth. Either everything that he says is true, and a year from now we will say he got through it pretty well, or he's taken a big risk, and if there's even one hole, he'll get eaten alive. But so we're just waiting to see, and so far, so good for him.
All right, so other names that have been out there, let's talk about a couple of others. Rick Perry, of Texas.
He has
we know that
glasses
he has glasses. They're very snazzy. We know he's going to wrap up his term as governor, not going to run again.
Texas is the capital of Republican America. It is an enormous state. It has a huge number of delegates. He probably has learned from his last run, certainly not somebody that you can discount, and indicative of a broad field with a lot of Republican governors out there. We just saw Mike Pence, Susana Martinez from New Mexico, Brian Sandoval from Nevada, Haley from South Carolina, but most of the attention, if double standard. And Hillary Clinton is the living embodiment of that double standard. But Republicans cannot pretend that somehow media bias will be defeated. They have to live in the world as it is, not as they wish it would be.
And quickly want to bring up two governors that you mentioned, Martinez and Sandoval. A lot of attention on them. They're Hispanic. A lot of talk about the GOP trying to appeal to those particular voters. Does that put them higher on the list for
Well,
anyone?
the Republicans have to be careful about pandering. It doesn't look good when you do it. If they genuinely are absolutely smitten with one of those two candidates, they should endorse and embrace and nominate, but they should do what is authentic, because if they're not true to who they are, it will look fake, and they will pay a terrible price for that, especially in a year when the Democrats are all but certain to nominate a woman.
All right, and I don't want to give anything away, but I understand Power Play, which is on 11:30 a.m. Eastern on the interweb every single day, will have some special announcements this week.
There is big news on Monday. We're going to talk about it more on Monday, but I can say this. There is a big change in the offing, so people do not want to miss that.
You are such a tease, Chris.
Quite so.
In so many ways. All right, thank you. Always good to see you. All right, what do you think at home? If you are a GOP voter, which current GOP governor, if we're just talking governors, would you most like to see make a 2016 run? Tweet us. You can use @Shannon Bream or @ANHQDC. We will read some of your answers later on in the show.